Integrated version control and the integrated archive service are also integrated directly into the IBM Cognos Connection user interface. As you can see in the Actions column, two new buttons appear. We're going to choose the View Revision History button for the Add Color report. This is the report that we were just using in the previous training tutorial. The View Revision History dialog is broken out into a few sections. At the top we see a table that lists all of the versions. Beneath, available actions that can be performed on the versions in that table. And then to the right of any version, we can choose more options to get more detail and actions for a specific version of the report. As you review the table, the first thing to notice is that there's some skipping in the numbering pattern. The table by default is only displaying the major versions of the report, major versions being the ones with commentary. If we choose the option Show All Versions, we'll see the minor versions of the report as well. Next to the version number column in the table, you can see a date timestamp for each version of the report when it was saved in the database. In the Notes column, you can see the annotation or the commentary that was recorded by the author at the time of save. The commentary is preceded by the change request number if that feature is turned on and a change request number was supplied. It's important to note that the change request number and the commentary are stored separately in the version control database. This is important because when you can report on this database through our supplied Framework Manager model and package. By having the change request number stored separately, you can use this as a drill-through parameter to other reports or to other systems. To the right of the Notes column is the Account column, which indicates the name of the author who saved this version of the report. And finally, in the Actions column, there are a number of available actions for each version of the report. As stated in the previous training video, each action is secured by a capability in the IBM Cognos Administration Console. In addition, they are secured by the access to which the user has to this report. For example, if I did not have read access to this report, then I would not be able to access any of the revision history. It is important that the version control repository does not provide access to reports that users do not have access to in IBM Cognos. If the user does not have write access to the report, then they will not be able to use any of the functions that edit the report, such as reverting the report or deleting report versions. The first button in the Actions column is the Preview Report. If we go back to version 2 of the report, Ari indicated that he added the quantity column. We can preview this version. Previewing this version will temporarily take the specification from the IVC repository and bring it back into IBM Cognos. And it'll be displayed in a friendly Cognos viewer. As you can see in the title, it indicates that this is the Add Color Report version 2. To the right of Preview Report is the Edit Commentary button. The Edit Commentary button allows me to edit comments after saving them in the studio. I'm logged on as the user Ari, and Ari has the administration capability for the Integrated Control Suite product. And as an administrator, I have the ability to edit the commentary for any author's version. However, had I not had the administration capability, I would only be able to edit the commentary for report versions that I saved. To the right of the Edit Commentary button is the Revert button. The Revert to this version feature allows the author the ability to go back to an older version very quickly. For example, if in version 5 we corrected header formatting, and in version 8 we added some italics. When we choose that we want to go back to version 5 of the report, we can simply choose the Revert to this version button. When reverting to a version, we're presented with commentary dialog, as reverting is also saving a new copy of the report. We can choose the default commentary or modify it. As well, we can also supply a change request number. When you hit OK at this dialog, a new version of the report will be spiked. Version 9, which has the commentary that it was a reversion back to version 5. To the right of the Revert version button is Open in Studio. There are two major use cases for needing to open an old version of a report in Studio. One is, many versions ago, you may have made a design choice, and got a certain direction. Now an author can go back to an old version of a report, open it in the studio, and save it as a different report and take that in a different direction. The second use case is, many versions ago, we may have lost something very important in the report, such as a filter. There's no reason to revert back to that version. We simply want to open that one in the studio, copy out that important information, and then close the studio and paste it into the current copy of the report. Beneath the revision history table is some available actions. We saw that we could preview a version of a report, but we can also compare two versions of reports side by side. For example, if we take version 2, where we added the quantity column, and version 4, where we added blue formatting in the body, we can compare the outputs of those reports side by side. Visually, you can see version 2 on the left-hand side and version 4 on the right-hand side, and what the differences are. To an author, this is a very important feature to be able to visually see the differences. However, to the quality control analyst, it's critical to see the differences between a version of the report that was in the test environment yesterday versus a version of the report that's in the test environment today. As well as seeing those changes visually, it's important for a QA analyst to be able to compare the versions of the report in the raw XML. By comparing the specifications of the report, we can see version 2 on the left and version 4 on the right. Quality control analysts can now make a determination that the only things that changed in this report was that the body contents were turned blue, and no other changes outside of the scope of the change request form were made to the report. There's no need to open a report in Report Studio to lock the report. An author can lock and unlock a report directly from the View Revision History dialog. If you have a report locked, an indication will show up beneath the table indicating that you have the report locked. When other users access this dialog, it'll indicate that Ari has this report locked. Other users are going to have limited access as to what they can do in this dialog, as they can't make any changes to the content store copy of the report, such as using the Revert feature. When a report is locked, there are 3 people who can unlock the report. The first person is the person who locked the report. That can be done from the studio or from the View Revision History dialog. The second person who can unlock a report is the administrator. From the IBM Cognos Administration Console, there's an Unlock Report feature. The third person who can unlock a report is a lead developer who's been granted the Force Unlock capability. The Force Unlock capability is important for certain developers to have access to. This will minimize the impact of calling an administrator to force unlock a report if somebody should inadvertently leave one locked. Let's take version 2 of this report and access the More features. Underneath the More dialog, we can see under Available Actions, we can also view the XML specification of the report. This is beneficial as we can access the raw XML of that version and copy it to the clipboard very quickly. Not only can we compare the output and specification of this report to other versions, but we can also compare it to the current copy in the content store. As well, we can compare it to the current copy in other content stores. In the administration training tutorials, we'll see an area where we can supply information about other Cognos environments. For this demonstration, I've indicated another environment called production. Therefore, I can compare the output and specification of version 2 of this report from the development environment to the content store copy of this report in the production environment. In the top right section, we can see some version information about this specific version. Note that the change control number is a hyperlink. As well, in the administration console, we can configure a URL to our web-enabled change control system. The change control number CR4489 in this case will be supplied on the query string to our change control system. Beneath version information, we have Promote Version. Promote Version is self-service promotion feature. This feature allows report authors to promote their own reports from one environment to the next environment. This feature, as with many of the features in this dialog, is secured by a capability. It's possible to grant this capability to only select users or shut it off entirely in your environment. By choosing Promote Report to Production, I'll be presented with a commentary dialog. Default commentary will be provided based on the name of this environment, the name of the target environment, what version I'm promoting, and the comments that were saved on this report. Notice that the change control number is also filled in automatically. Optionally, I can supply credentials for logging into the target environment. If I choose to not provide credentials, I'll be presented with a logon dialog for the target environment. In a single sign-on environment, this works very nicely. In situations where you cannot log into both environments at the same time in the same browser session, simply supplying a namespace username and password will give us the ability to log on to that environment. Beneath the Show Options section, we have the ability to decide what about this report we want to promote. For example, we may not replicate security between our environments. Therefore, I do not want to promote the security of this report. Once I've provided credentials if necessary and provided the proper options, I can then choose the OK button. I'll be presented with a logon dialog for the target environment, which will flash and disappear if single sign-on is enabled, and then the report will be promoted. Back in the revision history table, we can see version 2 of this report now has a green arrow to the left of it. This indicates that the report has been promoted. If we access the More Information again, we can see the new Promotion History area, which indicates history about this report being promoted to a different environment. Assuming that I'm also running the version control system in the production environment as well, a version of this report will be spiked in that environment, and that commentary will be supplied in that version in the production environment. A very common use case is that an author may have 20 or 30 versions of a report in the development environment, then only 6 versions of that report in the test environment, 2 versions of that report in the production environment. As you traverse from one environment to the next, there should be less and less versions, and the quality control analyst or developer in each environment should be able to look at only the versions that were promoted to that environment and compare between those. Back in the revision history dialog, we're going to now choose version 5 of this report. Instead of promoting this report to production, I'm going to tag this report for promotion. In the Studio Integration training video, we saw that you could tag a report at the time of saving the report. For the Deployment Project section to display in the View Revision History dialog, the Integrated Deployment Manager product must be turned on. Second, the current user must have the capability to tag reports for promotion. And thirdly, there must be at least one public deployment project. A public deployment project is one that has the checkbox allow authors to tag reports on this project. As an author, I may not have the ability to use the self-service promotion features, and instead, I can choose to tag a report for deployment. We currently have the Work Order 775 deployment project set up, and I've been instructed that this project is going to deploy to the target environment on Thursday night at 8 o'clock. I have until then to get my work completed. I can come into the system and tag this version for deployment. As you can see now in the revision history dialog, version 5 of the report has the green arrow with an asterisk, which indicates that the report is tagged for deployment. As I save new versions of the report directly in the Studio or from the revision history dialog, I can move the tagged version. For example, I can tag version 9 instead of version 5. We'll see the other side of this feature from the administrator's point of view in the Integrated Deployment Manager training tutorial.